Action.
No, come on, man. Come on, man. Come on!
The idea of this film is like naturally very, very fantastic, and because it's so fantastic, you want to kind of give it, like a lot of believability, and the believability comes from science. And the more like naturally you research, the more you can like kind of give the people, some sort of like a basis, that people can believe in it. And we went to great lengths, to talk to a lot of people, but at the end, I'm always like say, well, it has to work for the story. And so it's a mix between, like kind of fact and fiction.
It's this big epic movie that he knows this space. He's not afraid of the scope of a movie. No set or piece is too big. Like he rolls with it. That's actually when he gets really into it, because he's got such a vision in his head that we're all trying to just hold on and figure out where he's going with it. But I think above all, the one thing that if I can relate this to the other Roland movies that speak to me are, yes, you can have this big spectacle, but you really have the human emotion that drives the story, because you have to have people that you care about. And that is something that you see a through line with his movies, especially the ones that become these big successful films, because they can cross over just from being a big popcorn movie to going, I really loved that performance. I loved that character. I felt so much for that character. So he really likes to bring out that emotion. So from that perspective, you really do see these different storylines that each have such a tremendous amount of heart.
Well, what's happening is the moon is threatening to crash into Earth. And when it does that, before it gets there, it'll break into a billion, trillion little pieces that will all come crashing onto the Earth and will pretty much kill everyone. So, they've got a big problem that they're trying to figure out a way to solve. And what we come to find out is that there's some sort of alien force at work. And it goes against everything that science believes. So you have the battle of science and metaphysics and what is possible in both of those realms. But it's clear that something is happening that has caused the moon to move out of its orbit and start descending onto Earth, and there's a ticking clock on it. So if they don't get up to the moon and figure out what this thing is and sort of destroy it, then little by little the moon is moving closer and closer to the Earth and potentially causing destruction.
The great thing about working with Roland is that it's always inspiring to work with somebody who's an absolute master of what they do. In terms of the disaster movie, he's done other movies. He shouldn't just be defined by his work on disaster movies. But in terms of the disaster movie genre, he's not only perfected a lot of those motifs, he created a lot of those. It's such a game raiser to work with somebody whose instincts for these things are so exactly on point. If you can't get Roland Emmerich to direct your disaster movie, get someone who can copy Roland Emmerich to direct your disaster movie.
I tend more and more to believe in CGI, but I also believe still in practical effects, because they're like kind of the glue which holds it all together. And when you come very close to people and you have to feel this is a real piece of wood, or a real car, or, then it's like kind of makes the people more buy into that this is really happening.
The strange thing about this film is that we've almost shot everything in a room. Like, we're in one room where we've shot car chase scenes, homes, workplaces. These incredibly intricate sets get built. And then it's so easy to actually just feel at home. For example, our Colorado house, I walked in there and I was like, can I just nap here? Because there's like a fire going, there's some leather couches. It was just so cozy. And I was also like, is that for sale? Because I will take it all. It was just so well done.
We have kind of built up a curriculum of how to do zero-G over the years. And almost always it's a bag of tricks. Depending on the shot, depending on what we're trying to accomplish in the scene, then that kind of moves towards a certain technology. And with the zero-G, we had people on wires. We had what we kind of call it a seesaw platform, and then sometimes it'll be CG. You know, so there's really kind of like layers just depending on the shot.
If anything, I came in with too much knowledge of what it's like to act like you're floating, because I did that for an entire movie. But yeah, you know, it's always tough. It's always tough to pull that off, because you're concerned. It's not even the movement of getting through something. It's when you're talking and doing a scene, and where you're, you know, any astronaut will tell you your hands naturally fly here. Of course, if I did this in our scene right now, it would feel sort of odd. So you're trying to find that balance between what looks right and what's realistic, and we're not making a documentary and all of that kind of stuff. But it for sure is a much different feel. I didn't do too much training in that, although the spacesuit we did a couple, about an afternoon in trying to get used to, because they are incredibly cumbersome and heavy. And my apologies to the people who make them, but they are not great to wear.
For the Endeavour spaceship, there are a lot of wonderful images that already exist, thank God, and we were fortunate enough to get a mock-up that had been done that was just sitting all by itself, lonely, waiting for somebody to take it to Montreal. And we altered it to make it camera friendly, and embellished it and wired it up, and that's what we based the Endeavour on the Endeavour. The other spaceships were set designs that took months and months of study, building components, and then deciding which type of bells and whistles went into that to create a really fantastic looking ship.
The scenes in the shuttle, they've been a challenge to film, really, because you have to rely so heavily on your own imagination to pull those kind of scenes off. You're being guided through the scene by an off-camera voice that tells you what you have to be reacting to on a kind of second-by-second basis. But because we haven't seen the visuals, really, we've seen a very loose previs, so we sort of know the shape of it, but we don't really know what we're reacting to visually. It can be sometimes quite difficult to engage with.
I mean, I just admire it more. I mean, my admiration has gone way, way up. And so you see a lot of the green screen and blue screen, and with the practical stunts that go on, and you kind of don't know what to expect. So that's what's kind of cool. You get surprised, and I'm sure it's gonna look great. You know, I'm sure he's gonna, and you study, you know, as an actor, you like I said before, you want to dance with the camera, you want to make it a movement, and you want to be, this is one of the only times where you can actually be conscious of what, you know, some of the camera moves. And I'm just very curious to see what the end result is going to be.
The Aspen Chase is probably our biggest CG environment, as far as the most extensive when it comes to the effects work that's going to need to be done. There's no way that you could actually do practically what we're about to do, which is basically not just tear Aspen apart, but tear the mountains around it. The big thing with this movie is scale. You know, keep it to the viewer can actually comprehend what's happening, but then also try to create scale. I mean, we're dealing with, you know, planet-sized problems here.
He showed us his vision of what the car chase was gonna look like. And I just thought, how is this going to happen? We're in a room and there's 3 cars chasing each other. And then once we got into it, it actually felt like we were on this roller coaster ride, like a bumper car. Like there's cars bumping into us. There's, you know, 18-wheelers flying above us. It was such a surreal experience. And I had to keep saying to myself, I'm getting paid for this. This is my job.
We had this Zane, you know, who's playing Jimmy. He's got this like full dummy version of himself that they use sometimes. Like when he's in the back seat of the car and they're not really seeing him. So we have a whole bit about that's kind of going on, and Zane has created this amazing world about this character that's the dummy, and he's evil, of course, and everything. So, but yeah, but it's a lot of fun. I think, like, you know, the stuff that we're gonna do is just so extraordinary and just kind of ridiculous in of itself, and getting to kind of put yourself in the middle of that, and you know, when you're working with such great people at the same time, it just makes it so much fun.
I grew up in Germany. In Germany, we don't have like really superheroes. And I don't understand superhero films. I honestly admit it. And so I had to find, in a way, my own genre. And I realized, you know, that, and that was like actually probably came through Independence Day. I like had a lot of disaster elements in the film. When you like study disaster movies, you realize normal people have to become superheroes.
There is a wonderful thing that films can do, no matter if they're a tiny independent movie or a huge spectacle, which is engage in conversation, which is can make you think. Maybe it can change the way that you look at a certain subject. Maybe it can open your mind. Even if it's not some heart-wrenching drama, even if it's a big, fun, splashy spectacle. And I think this movie can do that, and does that in a couple different ways. I think it does bring up the fact that, and it's no secret with the creation of AI and the worries of machines rising against you. I mean, Terminator dealt with it. But there is an increasing fear that is very real. You know, I think art imitates life, and I think that in the science community, I think that is a legitimate fear of, if we create something so much that takes over, that has such power with our increasingly technological society, what does that mean? So this movie raises that.
Normally, big disaster movies like this are movies that people seem to gravitate towards. I think they can see themselves in them. We all have this fascination about the end of the world and what would that look like and how would we live through that? Would we live through that? And because the pandemic is so much, I think, a part of our everyday life right now, a movie like this sort of resonated with me in a different way. I thought it would be more relatable now than ever before.
I love that it took this huge disaster film idea, but really based it around one of the most interesting and controversial questions of evolution versus creation. And so for me, that was really fascinating to me. I like when you can use a movie, even a big splashy popcorn movie, to at least just drop something into the conversation. I think that's really fascinating.